Tonight, we enter the world of terrifying dreams, where sleep turns into horror. These are real stories of nightmares that feel too real to ignore. Keep the lights low. Welcome to Haunting Dreams and Nightmares. I was about 10 or 11 years old. One night I was alone in my house but didn't know where my parents were. I was sleeping deeply when a sharp scratching sound woke me. It came from the dining area. My heart beat fast as I got up slowly to check. In the dining room's corner I saw a shadow facing the wall. It was scratching the wooden floor. I called out, "Who's there?" The shadow stopped and slowly turned around. It was Mr. Kenny, our neighbor who had died a year ago. Seeing him there, so real but not, sent chills down my spine. I didn't know if I was still dreaming or awake. Mr. Kenny just stared at me silently, his eyes empty and dark. The silence broke with the scratching starting again, louder this time. The floorboards seemed to pulse with each sound. I took a step back, heart hammering and sweat dripping down my face. The shadows flickered oddly near the ceiling, as if the room itself was breathing. I tried to move, but my legs felt glued to the floor. The air smelled like burnt wood, mixed with a faint, metallic scent. I could hear soft whispers, but could not understand the words. Suddenly, the shadow whispered my name, and the voice was cold and broken. I screamed and shut my eyes tight. When I opened them, he was gone. The room was quiet and empty again, but I knew he hadn't really left. Even now, the scratching sounds send a shiver down my spine. The memory stays with me, a ghostly visit that blurred the line between dreams and reality. I heard my mum call my name softly, but it came from the kitchen. To get there, I had to pass through 3 rooms. As I walked, I looked into the mirror in the middle room. I saw my younger sister playing with someone. But then I noticed the face in the mirror. It was mine. The face looked wrong. My eyes became bigger, and my teeth grew sharp and pointed. The figure tried to bite my sister on the neck. Fear swept over me like ice. I shouted and grabbed my sister's hand. I pulled her away quickly, heart pounding. The air around us felt cold and heavy, like something was pressing on my chest. When I turned back, the reflection in the mirror was gone. The room sounded empty, except for soft noises coming from the walls. Shadows moved and twisted like they were alive. The light flickered, making the room darker and harder to see. I kept calling for help, but no one answered. My sister held onto me tightly, shaking. The house seemed to close in around us. The mirror cracked slowly, spiderwebbing across the glass. The shards reflected parts of my face, broken and warped. I heard a scratching sound like claws on wood. My sister screamed and I tried to cover her mouth. The cold fear settled deep inside me. The smell in the air was sharp and sour. The mirror's smile was still there, wide and hungry. When I finally woke up, sweat soaked my pillow and sheets. The quiet of my room felt heavy, like the dark followed me from the dream. Every time I pass a mirror, I catch a glimpse of that face. The hungry smile lingers just beneath my own reflection, watching and waiting. For years, every night in my grandpa's house, the dream returned. I would be sleeping, lost in heavy darkness. Then the voice would come, always the same, never loud, muttering in a strange language that didn't sound like anything I knew. The words were thick and slow, pressing into my ears. But every time I could remember the sound, it always repeated the exact same way. I'd jolt awake, heart racing, the room would be silent and empty. My grandpa slept in the next room, his soft snore barely reaching me. Still, the words kept echoing. The next night it would happen again, right as I slipped into deep sleep. Those same sounds, those same strange words. I started to dread falling asleep, never knowing when the voice would be back. Then, one night, everything changed. I was sleeping in the hall instead of my room. There was a CCTV camera set up in the corner, covering most of the space. That night, the voice was louder, right by my ear. The words tumbling over and over as I tried to wake up. My eyes snapped open. No one there, just faint moonlight on the wall. In the morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I went straight to check the camera. My hands shook as I found the footage and pressed play. The grainy image showed me lying on the floor. Then a flickering, dark form appeared, long and thin, just at the edge of the frame. It slowly drifted across the hall, pausing near my head. The shape moved in a way I can't explain, as if it wasn't walking, just gliding. It lingered by me for a while, almost bending lower. Watching that, everything inside me went cold. I stared at the screen for minutes, hoping it was a trick of the light, but the shadow was there, moving, hovering. The next time the voice came, I tried to stay awake, but the words came anyway, flooding my mind, making my skin crawl. Now, even years later, the memory follows me. I'm never sure if the dreams brought the shadow, or the shadow brought the dreams. I was 13 when it first happened. My brother and I were alone in the kitchen late at night, around 11 p.m. I was preparing something for him, while the house sat empty and quiet. Suddenly, I noticed something strange coming out of the kitchen sink. It looked like seaweed, slimy and tangled, slowly stretching and growing. At first, I thought it was just pipes or a mess, but it kept rising higher and started to take shape. The shape became clear. It was someone I knew. It formed the outline of our grandmother, but this was not the gentle woman we remembered. This figure was twisted, with skin hanging loose and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. My brother and I stared in horror, frozen with fear. Then, the shape spoke to my brother. "Come closer," it said softly. "I have chocolates for you." The voice was strange, not quite right, cracked and hollow. Our grandmother had died 5 years before, but this thing was something else. A damp smell filled the kitchen, mixed with something metallic and sweet, like rotting fruit. My skin crawled as the seaweed figure stretched out a thin, writhing arm toward my brother. My heart slammed in my chest. Without thinking, I grabbed him and pulled him out of the kitchen. The shadow reached for us as we ran, twisting and cracking like broken glass. I woke up gasping for air. Sweat dripped down my face and my hands shook. The room was dark and silent, but the feeling remained, like the shadow was waiting just beyond the walls. I can still hear its voice sometimes, whispering promises of sweetness, hiding an awful hunger beneath. I was alone in my room. My dog Johnny was with me. Johnny started acting strange just after midnight. I was supposed to be home alone, but he wouldn't stop staring at me from the foot of my bed. His tail was stiff, and every time I blinked, I swear his face was a little closer. The house felt off. No usual night sounds, no cars in the distance, just the tick of the clock and Johnny's uneven breathing. Then Johnny's eyes changed. 1 second they were brown, The next, they turned a dull, deep red that glowed in the dark. He began growling, low, guttural, a noise I'd never heard before from him. I called his name. He didn't even twitch. I shifted under the blanket, but he kept staring. My skin started to crawl. That's when things broke. His jaw opened wider than any dog's should. His teeth sharpened and stretched, filling his mouth. With a jerky, unnatural movement, Johnny placed his paws against the wall, then scuttled up. Nails scratched paint as he walked to the ceiling, back bent at impossible angles. My heart hammered. The room twisted around him. His body hung upside down above me, and his head split right down the middle, one side grinning, the other drooling. He said my name, not a bark, a voice like a broken radio, hissing, "Isabel," over and over. Impossible. The air got thick, heavy with the smell of metal and burned fur. Johnny crawled towards me, all four paws tapping above my face. Every time he said my name, the room grew smaller. I wanted to get up but couldn't move. I was frozen. Shadows warped on the ceiling with every twitch of his tail. The ceiling light flickered, casting twisted shapes behind him. Long, thin limbs reaching down, closer and closer to my bed. Suddenly, Johnny dropped. His weight landed on my chest, pinning me down. His two jaws stretched apart and he bit into my neck. I screamed. My own voice sounded warped, not quite right. I tried to push him away, but my hands went numb. I woke up gasping, hands around my throat. The room felt wrong, like Johnny was still there, just out of sight. I stared at the ceiling, too scared to close my eyes. It started normal. Just a late ride back from college on the bus. The windows rattled. I stared outside, half awake. Suddenly the sky twisted. Thick clouds blocked the sun and the whole world turned grey. The air pressed against the glass, heavy and wrong. There was no one on the bus except me and the driver. The bus rolled slowly, the engine quieter than usual. I tried to find my phone but realized my bag was gone. The driver didn't say a word. All at once he turned his head, bone cracking, all the way around, so his face stared straight at me. His smile was wide and sharp, filled with too many teeth, bigger than any person's mouth. He stood up, leaving the bus moving on its own. The wheel spun loose. He walked down the aisle, head still twisted around, eyes never blinking. The grin stayed fixed, stretching and shaking as he got closer, each tooth longer than before. He started to laugh too, deep and bubbling, sounding just like in that movie. The Joker. I called out. My voice was broken and weak, swallowed by the thick air. The bus shook. Doors slammed shut. The lights above flickered and pulsed with each step he took. His hands reached out, thin fingers grabbing the seat backs, clawing closer to where I was pressed against the window. There was nowhere to run. The bus was swallowed by black storm clouds. Nothing out the windows but darkness. The driver's laughter filled the entire bus, echoing and twisting in the small space. He leaned down so close I could see every crack and stain on his white teeth. His mouth never closed. I woke up shivering, heart racing so fast it hurt. Even now, whenever a storm rolls in or I ride a bus at dusk, I see that twisted face and hear his laughter in my head. Smile. When I was a child, I often had nightmares that felt so real and terrifying they would shake me to my core. I am awake but can't move or speak. The room is freezing and bright. They announce what they will do, but their faces are hidden behind masks and glass. I feel the first cut, cold and deep, sliding down my chest. I try to scream, but nothing comes out. My eyes are open, but the only sound is metal against flesh. One by one, they remove my organs. Each time they show me what they've taken, as if I should thank them. They hold it just long enough for me to know it's mine, then drop it in a silver bin with a wet thud. The air smells like disinfectant and something sour. I want to look away, but they make sure I see everything. I can feel the tug and tear as they reach inside, again and again. I feel them scrape against bone. My heart beats wild and fast, but they pull it out and the sound stops for a second before the rushing comes back. My body aches to move, to close up, to hide, but I can't even blink. They start putting the organs back in. Not careful, not gentle. They drop them in like groceries, in the wrong order, some colder than before. The table vibrates with every tool they use. Then the staples come out, sharp, loud, punching through skin and muscle. Each click burns. It never stops hurting. Almost finished. Someone asks, "Do you feel that?" Another laughs. I want to beg, but my mouth stays closed. They go slower for the last seam, talking to each other, ignoring me. Every staple gets heavier, hotter, more painful. They pause just before the very last one. I am left open, exposed, organs slipping inside me, skin burning, unable to scream. That's when I wake up, sweating and shaking, my chest tight and sore, convinced I still feel metal in my skin. The road was empty, and the sky was dark early that evening. I was walking to college alone when I saw an old woman sitting next to the road. She looked weak and told me she could not walk home by herself. She asked for my help. Her hand was cold and tight when she grabbed mine. I didn't want to, but I helped her up and followed her into the woods nearby. The air turned heavy and smelled like damp leaves. We reached her house, small and hidden in the trees. It was dark inside, with strange jars on shelves lining the walls. The smell of wet earth and mold filled the room. She offered me a drink from a cracked cup. The liquid was bitter and strange. I tried to refuse, but her eyes didn't blink until I drank. My head grew heavy and spun as I sat down. The last thing I remember was my eyes closing. I woke tied to a chair, my hands and feet bound by rough ropes. My mouth was dry and my heart was pounding. The old woman was not the same. She stood tall and thin. Her skin was stretched tight, her eyes glowing yellow and cold. Her mouth was wide, like a grin that never stopped. In her hand was a sharp, long knife. She told me she would cook me. Then she listed what she wanted first, my brain and eyes. I begged for her to stop, but she moved closer, dragging the blade along the floor. The knife made a sound like scraping bone. The room was dark, except for the knife's shine flickering in the light from the window. I yelled and screamed for help, but no one came. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to move. I could hear whispers, but I couldn't tell what they said. Everything smelled sour and rotten. My skin crawled, and sweat dripped down my face. I woke up with a loud gasp, soaked in sweat and shaking. Even now, I still see her wide, broken smile every time I close my eyes in the quiet dark. Bone knife,